Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I'm your host, JP John Poz, and with me today is a very special guest. He's a former NWA World Tag Team Champion, a former TNA King of the Mountain Champion. You may know him as Bram, but of course he is Mr. Thom Latimer. Thom, welcome to the two-man power trip. How you doing today, sir?
Thank you for having me, John.
No problem at all. So what's going on? What have you been up to? You seem like you're a busy guy.
I am. My day actually starts at. This is very boring. No one's going to care. But my day actually starts at 3 a.m. So I get up. Well, I drag myself out of bed at 3 a.m. I go work out and then have a real job, and that involves I take people to their hospital and doctor's appointments, people in wheelchairs and kids to school and stuff like that. So I generally start work at 6 a.m. and then I'll work until about 6 p.m. and then I'll get back. I'll do paperwork. I'll eat because I've just started fasting, so I don't eat all day. And then I'll spend a little bit of time with my better half, Kaylee, and then I go to bed by about 7. So that's my life. So yeah.
Nice. And wrestle too, right? I mean, you got to stay in shape. You got to work out, and you're still wrestling, obviously.
Still wrestling, but that's with the NWA. We tape every 2 to 3 months, like four or so days, like a pay-per-view, and then 4 days. So there's not. I've gone from wrestling full time, and that being my full time living, sort of the last 10 years, to now it really being sort of a sort of secondary income and something that's my real job kind of takes precedence over wrestling.
With the NWA, obviously they got a couple of huge shows coming up in St. Louis. You got the 73rd anniversary show, which is pay-per-view. Got the Empower, which is the women's pay-per-view, and then you got a couple tapings. What's the thought process here with St. Louis? I mean, this is old school NWA. Are you loving that?
Oh, totally. I mean, it's it's a blast from the past, and I think everyone's really pumped. I mean, I don't know how long it is, 20, 30, maybe more years since they've been in that building. So I know that St. Louis is excited to have wrestling back, excited to have the NWA back, and like you said, we're doing an only women's pay-per-view, which is super exciting. And I think that after that was announced, a lot of the other companies are sort of and that's how it goes in pro wrestling. They've seen someone else do it, so they've all jumped on it. But I mean, you're going to see a lot of people that aren't signed with any other sort of promotions, and some eyeballs on some new, talented, interesting people. Women's wrestling's kind of taken off, and so that's cool. That if you're a women's wrestler, there's more opportunities, more eyes on you, more places to be able to apply your craft. And then if you're a women's wrestling fan, then you've got an alternative. So I'll be interested to see how the NWA runs with that. You've got Mickey James, who's sort of running the show there. You couldn't really have a better sort of person to be taking that under a wing and running with it. So that's exciting. Camille will be wrestling on there as the NWA Women's Champion, and then NWA 73. So I think we're all pretty pumped. It's also another step up. After leaving YouTube, going to Fight TV, it's a step up. Leaving the GPB studios and going back to kind of where the NWA originated is another step up. So it's an exciting time for the NWA and everybody that's involved.
Do you know what you'll be doing yet on the card?
No, wrestling is one of those things where you find out on the day, and so you kind of just figure it out as it comes. I don't have any clue. I couldn't tell you anything, even if I knew, I couldn't, because I would if I knew, but I don't. So.
Is it cool to have Camille kind of be the centerpiece of the other pay-per-view? And obviously you and Nick are probably going to be somewhat of the centerpiece of the 73rd anniversary pay-per-view.
Well, I would presume and hope that Strictly Business would be sort of highlighted in all of it, and I presume that's going to be the case. But I guess it's kind of one of those deals where whatever sort of situation we're put in as the professionals that we are, we knock it out the park, because we know that that's how you set the standard and set the ball in motion for how the rest of the time's going to go. So whoever's on the card, whoever's going to be put in that position to be showcased on the card is going to give it 110%. Not that they wouldn't anyway, but it's definitely an incentive to strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah, and it seems like obviously with Empower, you got Deonna Purrazzo is going to be on there. Gail Kim was kind of teasing something with that too. So there's going to be other promotions involved, not just the NWA. I mean, that's got to be a cool thing. Just who the hell knows? You never know who's going to show up. Could be ROH, Impact, AEW. You never know.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the crazy and cool thing with wrestling at the moment, that the things that you never would have thought could happen nowadays. So it is an exciting time, and I think that the more places that want to work together, the more exciting it is for the fans, because they know that they could see matches happening that wouldn't have necessarily been allowed to take place before. So I think NWA's had a working and does have a working relationship with Ring of Honor. And then, obviously there's a lot of people just like myself that have wrestled for, TNA before. And so that also being another door that's open is exciting. Of course, they've got a relationship with AEW. So you just never know. And that's the exciting thing about wrestling in this day and age, is, like you said, who knows? And of course, you got to think a lot of other people that wouldn't have been able to wrestle for these other promotions, now they could. So obviously they're excited and they want to get stuck in too.
With the NWA, obviously Billy Corgan is the boss. He's the man in charge. I interviewed him not that long ago. I was kind of surprised at how big of a wrestling fan he was, and like old school fan. What do you think about Billy and working for Billy and just his passion for the business? It's kind of interesting because he's so famous from the Smashing Pumpkins, but it's like, wow, he's such a big wrestling fan. He's really invested in professional wrestling in the NWA.
Me and Billy's relationship started when, I couldn't tell you how. I mean, it's many years ago now. When he would come to Impact, and we sort of hit off we sort of became kind of close almost instantly. I think when we took a liking to each other. I mean, I was always a fan of the Smashing Pumpkins. Anyway, my best friend Pat in the UK, one of my best friends, he was a big Smashing Pumpkins fan, so he was very jealous when he realizes that I was hanging out with Billy. But yeah, we hit it off, and he almost became at one point my agony aunt while I was in Impact. Like, he knew that I had a drinking problem, he knew that I had a drug problem, and I would go to him and sort of moan and complain, and he would try and steer me in the right direction, and sort of what's the word? Sort of try and help me out a little bit with what I was going through, because you kind of relate to that maybe a little bit. But I didn't know that down the line he'd be my boss, so maybe I wouldn't have told him the things that I did back then. But he understands that deep down I'm not. Everyone goes through stuff. So and then Billy started. I think he was hired by Impact, and he would do a lot of the backstage stuff, and he did a lot of the stuff with me and Decay and whatnot when that little feud was going on back then. And so then obviously there was a bit of a falling out. Billy went his own way, Impact went their own way. And then, Billy bought the NWA, and he, like I said, he like you said, he was always a big wrestling fan. I remember watching, I don't know if it was a WrestleMania or something from years back, and he was in the crowd, and I think he did some stuff at ECW, and so it's kind of cool. And like you said, he is an old school wrestling fan. He likes that old school stuff. And that's kind of where I fit. I like the old school stuff. I like man versus man beating each other up. I'm not a big fan of the synchronized sort of dance routines that it seems to be now. So, he likes his storytelling. He's good versus bad. Good guy versus the evil guy, and two guys duking it out and being able to cut a promo. So, and it's good that he understands, and it's different to everything else that's going on too. I mean, yes, it's old and it's been done, but it's not really being done today, at least not in that in the stage kind of in the studio setting and old school like wrestling that your parents used to watch or whatever. So, oh, it's really good. And the fact that, like you say, he knows his history, and he's sort of brought it back from the ashes. So, and I'm happy that we always had a good relationship, and Nick's one of my best friends too. So for me joining there was kind of a no-brainer, and it's nice to see the evolution of it. And obviously after COVID, we had a bit of a spanner in the works, but now we're slowly climbing that ladder.
Feels like with him, he definitely loves the old school guys. Like, there's not too many of those small guys. There's not, in the other organizations, they have a lot of the, cruiserweights, whatever you want to say, the smaller guys that are doing the gymnastic routine, or they're doing this. He's totally against that. If you look at the roster, there's really no small guys. You're big. Nick is big. Obviously, the Pope, it might be one of the smaller guys, and he's not small at all. JTG might be one of the smaller guys. He's not small at all. You know what I mean? He definitely likes his bigger guys.
No, it's kind of funny because, like you say, JTG isn't small, Pope's not small, and you don't really realize that. I mean, they came from the land of the giants, working from WWE, back in the day, and so these dudes are big dudes, but you don't realize it until you're around them and you see them. But no, I mean, like I said, there's nothing wrong with that style of wrestling if that's what you like and whatnot. And a lot of that stuff I couldn't imagine to try and do. As far as I'm athletic, but not to that degree. And like you said, it's different, and it's a niche coming from kind of what everyone else is doing. It's nice if you like the old school, two big, muscly kind of dudes beating each other up. Then this is for you. I guess this is for maybe the older generation that doesn't necessarily enjoy what wrestling is everywhere else nowadays.
Yeah, there was definitely some lapsed fans that are just like, man, I don't really like this stuff anymore. And you saw a lot of those fans go away, and hopefully the NWA is kind of bringing them back, or at least getting their interest back in wrestling, because it's more, let's, like, let the guy cut the promo, let's do the heel versus face, like more simplified, but kind of the storytelling that a lot of the fans prefer.
For sure. And you said simplified, and that's what you don't really watch. If you want to, you go see a movie, or you watch a documentary, you do something that you really want to get invested in, right? Whereas wrestling, of course, you want to be invested. You need to be invested. You want to feel for the guys. You want to hate the bad guys. But you're right. It's simpler. The simple version of it. It's more digestible. You don't need to. You're not puzzled by what's going on. It's very straightforward. And for me, I always thought that's how wrestling should be: straightforward, to the point. You know who to cheer for. You know who to boo for. You can follow along. The rules make sense. So yeah, simple sometimes is better.
It's just like when Tim Storm was feuding with Strictly Business and feuding with Nick. It was like, okay, it's sink or swim. Here's the microphone. You're the babyface. You're going to promo. Nick, you're the heel. You're going to promo. It was very good storytelling, but it was just like, wow, this is very old school, because you didn't really see that too much with some of the other organizations. Like, I love that the podium is basically kind of like the home base. There you go, shoot, or cut your promo. There's no script. Here's some bullet points or whatever. Go.
Yeah, that's right. And you need to kind of know who you are. And I think that, and besides that, you're talking about Nick, you're talking about Tim, one ex heavyweight champion and the heavyweight champion. You got two guys there that you can just knock out of the park no matter what situation they're put in. And then you've also got two, like they did with the series with the 10 pounds of gold. You've got two incredible backstories. You've got Tim Storm, who's a guy who's on the back end of his career, but cares and loves about the business so much. He's a school teacher, looks after kids. And then you've got Nick, who is also, sort of teetering between a good and a bad guy. He's not, he might come across as slightly arrogant, or, he wears nice clothes and shit, but then at this, holds the championship with pride and whatnot. And there's some people that are going to look up to that. And there's other people that are going to think that he's some sort of pompous kind of guy. So, but at the same time, he's a family man, and he's got a little boy, and he's married. And so you've got all these sorts of, you've got this roller coaster of emotions, because you like Nick, but you're also kind of jealous of him and envious of him, and he might rub people the wrong way. And you got Tim, who's your bona fide baby face. And so, when you bring them those two sort of elements together, you get, you know, it kind of writes itself, and you've got this beautiful emotional story that you can go through. And really, that's what it's all about. You know, you want to watch that. Like you say, it wants to be simple, but at the same time, you need to care about the characters. You need to care that either Nick wins and beats Tim and sends him on his way, or you pray and hope that Tim pulls the cat out the bag and somehow slips a victory and becomes a champion again. Like, and you know, you want to be emotionally invested in the characters, and I think that you've got two guys there that could do that all day, and you've got an easy, simple story to follow.
With you and Nick, like, where does the relationship go back to? I mean, we're going back many, many years. Where did the relationship with him first start? Obviously, now it's strictly business. You guys are, you know, part of the faction together. But I mean, when originally, where did that kind of relationship stem from?
We originally met on the UK independent scene in I don't know, between 2005 and 2007. I couldn't tell you the exact date, but Brian Dixon was
All-Star Wrestling.
All-Star Wrestling, yeah. He's a guy that's been around forever. Everyone loves Brian. Everyone, a lot of the Americans would come over and work for Brian, or guys from Noah, and it was kind of the place to be, because back in the day, I mean, even now, there's nowhere where you can work 6-7 days a week. There's nowhere where you get that much experience. You're around guys that have wrestled their whole lives. Like, it was basically where you went to learn the job. You went to learn, and you learned the job as you went. Yeah, even when it came to how you behave and the things outside of the ring, that we learned so much there, and we're around such talented people, and it was really sort of, you can't. It's a shame that it's not like that everywhere else, because I mean, you get such knowledge, and you kind of figure out if you want to do this job or not working for Brian. And so we met then, and I want to say that when we first met, I was kind of a bit on the fence, to be honest. I was like, oh, I don't know if I like this guy. But we ended up having I think the same day, I was kind of like, oh, I'm not sure about this guy. And then we rode from one camp, which is like a holiday park, to another where we'd wrestle the next day. Because we'd just stay on the road. We'd never go home, especially during the summer. And on that car ride, that's when we became best buds, and we've pretty much been inseparable from that point. We would wrestle all the time together. Nick would run his own shows. I'd wrestle on his shows, and then he had an agent, and the TV series of Gladiators was coming back out. And so they were looking for sort of, dudes that are in shape and things like that. So he ended up his agent got him the gig, and then he was like, hey, come do this with me. Maybe they'd take a look at you. So we kind of did that together, and we actually got down to the last lot. And I remember the day that the production company was ringing everyone to tell them that they'd made it, right? And he rings me, he's like, I'm in, or whatever. And then I'm like, oh shit. And then eventually I got my phone call, and they were like, oh, sorry. I was like, damn. So we split up at that point. I continued wrestling. He went on and did Gladiators, and he would wrestle in between. And then I think he did some pantomime stuff and things like that. So we'd still be seeing each other sporadically. And then after that, he went to TNA. And then I think maybe a year or two after that, I got hired. And so he'd gone to America. A couple more years later, I ended up in America. And then, again, we'd see each other whenever we could. We both, at one point, we were both living sort of in Tampa, so we got to hang out quite a bit. And then once I got fired from WWE, then Nick again sort of said, hey, come to TNA, come show your face. And so through that's how I ended up in TNA. And then we were sort of back together doing our thing, which is kind of cool after all that sort of time, And then with the NWA, it was the same sort of situation, Did he recruit you into the NWA? Or was that more Billy?
I mean,
would he have? Yes, for sure. I think that I'd already built that relationship with Billy, and it was still in its infancy, in its early stages. Nick was defending the belt everywhere, and it was kind of just Nick, maybe Dave Lagana, and Billy running that, filming it, sort of slowly getting the gears going on the idea behind the NWA. Even when I was in the UK wrestling independently, once I'd left Impact, Nick came and we wrestled somewhere where he defended the belt against me on some show. And so there was nothing they only, at that point there was only Nick, and that's all that really was needed, until Billy obviously wanted to, okay, let's actually build a roster here, let's start a show. So once I had come back to live in the States full time, you know, I sort of said, hey Billy, I'm coming back. And then pretty much I think the day that I got to Clarksville, there was a pop-up NWA event with Tried and True. And then I think it was the next day I arrived here, I was on that show, and then I never left.
When you go to the NWA, eventually you get put with Nick. Whose idea is to put you guys together and form Strictly Business and kind of become that unit?
It was an idea that was, I mean, it took a bit of time for us to evolve. You know, again, it's kind of a no-brainer. We're gonna end up together. We're gonna end up doing something. So Royce Isaacs ended up being my tag partner, and I think originally it was supposed to be Starks and Royce, but I think Starks was in Japan or something happened. I don't know, and I just got back. So the idea was to stick us together. So the day that I think we met the day before the Crockett Cup, so the day before we were supposed to tag and go all the way except to win it. So we hit it off the bat straight away and became close friends. Even though we were kind of just a bit like, we don't know what we're doing. We're kind of an odd pairing. We lost that, and then we went back to Ring of Honor and on a show beat the guys for the tag belt. So we had the tag team belts coming into the first set of NWA Power, and I think
Villain Enterprises.
Yeah, and I think that it was just a sort of slow progression to go, okay, Nick's feuding with Tim. Let's kind of see how it goes. But I mean, I think it was always kind of in the works that we would form some sort of a stable. You know. It could have happened kind of organically, but at the same time, it just kind of made sense.
What do you think about Royce? I mean, obviously you guys are NWA tag champs. What do you think about him? Chemistry, like on the camera and then away from the camera.
So we got on great outside of the ring, and you know he's doing bits and bobs with the AEW, so I'm super proud of him. So it was kind of me and Royce, I feel like, and he'd probably say that too, like he's got another tag partner, and they've been tagging for a long time, and they're sort of more entwined with each other. I was in a tag team in WWE, and then I kind of not really done anything like that for a while. And we didn't really have a lot of time to sort of gel or come up with things. And, so we just obviously he lives in California. I live in Tennessee. So we would just kind of show up and do it. And, could we have gelled more? I think so. I just feel like we were thrown together, and we knew that, and we just tried to kind of make the best of it.
With him, do you think he fit the Strictly Business, or you think, you know what I mean? Like, does he fit that mold with you guys, or is that kind of a little bit of a?
Yeah, I think so. But you also, you don't want everyone to be the same. I feel like after COVID, a lot of the guys went other places. A lot, there's only a handful of people that are sort of under deals. So you're a free agent technically. If you're not signed to somewhere, then you can go anywhere and do what you want. And Billy, on the first day of when we started taping NWA Power, he said to people, hey, if you want to be here, great. If you want to be here for 10 years, cool. If you want to be here for 10 months, cool. It's entirely up to you. If this is a stepping stone to somewhere else, go for it. There was never any, you know what I mean? I own you or any of that. You're free to do whatever you want. This is your opportunity to shine. And if that helps you get somewhere else, fantastic. And so after COVID, there wasn't NWA, kind of halted, just going through some stuff. And so, the guys have got to eat. The guys, that's what they do. They wrestle. So, a lot of these guys sort of jump ship. And you can't blame them, and they've got to put food on the table, and so that was kind of the situation with it, so a lot of people jumped. But do I think that he fit? I think that he did. I think that if there was more time for us to grow as a unit, we're also kind of figuring out who each person is too. Like Royce had a relationship with one of the ladies there. And I'm having a brain fart. She'll kill me.
May Valentine.
May, there we go. Thank you, May. And and May's never done that before either. So she's never sort of been, any kind of. She would interview people and do things like that, but she'd never. This is the first kind of run in the wrestling business. So she was kind of figuring out who she is, and Royce is kind of trying to figure out, okay, well, where's this going? What does it lead to? What does this mean? Is this a big comedy thing? What is it? So I feel like if it would have get a bit, if he had stayed and then would have had time to evolve, like maybe he'd have gone his own separate way, or maybe we'd have continued growing, but would have been able to figure out kind of who we are and where we all fit. You know what I mean? Because he was having quite a funny, intriguing storyline with May. We never know. We'll never know now where it was actually headed. But when you're in a group, not everyone can be the same. So I feel like if it had had time to evolve, then we could have seen where it would have gone a little bit better.
Obviously, kind of Chris Adonis has really kind of taken his place. Another big boy, that fits Billy's mold as far as like guys going to look like old school pro wrestler, wouldn't he? Fits right in there with those '80s guys.
Oh, for sure. I love Chris. I love Chris to death. He's a great guy to be around. I've known him for quite some time. We've wrestled quite a few times together on the UK independent scene, and it's great to have Chris around. And he's, like you say, a guy that's been there and done it all. And it's nice to be in. It's kind of, besides being a guy that I really get on with, we're both kind of the same side. We both kind of we're going to try and never go to the top rope. So we kind of fit together a little bit more. So, but again, we're still in our early stages. We don't kind of really know where that's progressing. I mean, we've not given him one of the jackets yet. He's in, but he's not officially in. So we're just testing him out and seeing how it's going. But as far as having him there, he totally fits the mold. He totally belongs in the NWA, and again, it's nice for him to be able to have a place to call, his home right now.
Where do you get those awesome jackets, by the way? Those are great.
Well, the boss man, the national treasure, he's the one that you need to talk to about one of them.
Those are some great jackets. They're like I don't even know what it would like that old school like Magic Johnson would have it on. You know what I mean? Like the old school kind of like basketball jackets, almost like those awesome ones from the '80s.
Yeah, no, they're cool. So Chris needs to hurry up and qualify for his jacket, and then we'll all have jackets. So
for a while, they have Camille with Nick. What did you think of that? Because obviously, they're kind of teasing, like, what's the relationship there? What did you think about Camille with Nick? Because it fits, but then it's also like, ooh, there's some mystery there. Why is she with him? What is she doing with him? Isn't he married to Mickey James? You know what I mean? There's a little bit of intrigue there, a little bit of interest.
Yeah, I think that, Camille, she had kind of quit the business. Like, she trained at Team 3D under the Dudleys, and she was on the independent scene for a bit, and then her ex is a wrestler too, and so she kind of, she was doing it, and then she kind of fell out of. She just, kind of moved on from it. So, Dave Lagana had reached out, hey, you still doing anything? I think Nick at the time was doing his thing, and the idea was like, hey, let's have a heater, let's have a big jack woman that's kind of my bodyguard, and it's kind of no one had really done that in a very long time, and so it was different and unique, and she was down for it, and so it kind of just organically became a thing, and her not talking then organically became a thing, and it was sort of a great way to build her up and get her in front of people, and put her with the champ, and it was it was a good way to have he had someone then that could take some of the heat, or have him get more heat because a lady's protecting him, and it was kind of just a unique blast from the past. So and it sort of re-sparked the love and passion that she has for pro wrestling. So it all sort of worked out.
Where did you guys initially meet? Was it just, I guess, wrestling somewhere along the line?
No, we'd never met. I think I've been back in America now 3 years or so, something like that. So, so I flew to Orlando. I got a lot of old pals from there. So I was in I think I was with Sam Shaw Dexter for a little bit, and then and a couple of my other close friends in Tampa or whatever. And so I flew back, had a couple of weeks in Florida, so I caught up with everyone, and then Dexter drove me up to Clarksville, where I was going to stay, because I'd originally left the UK. I felt like I'd wore out my welcome, and I was kind of spinning my wheels there. I'd left Impact. I went back to the UK. I continued making my living wrestling full time, but I just felt it doesn't feel like my home kind of anymore. I want to be back in America, but I don't have anything to go back to. I was still, an alcoholic, and I also still didn't want to commit to real life. I didn't want a real job. I was still in that sort of bad mindset. So Crimson, he'd reached out, and he was like, hey, Sam was going to be the head coach of our school, but there's a position here now. I'll try and help you figure out where you're going to live, and we'll get you rolling here with the school, and it's going to give you something, because I was desperate to get out of the UK. So I was like, great, that sounds cool. So like I said, Sam went to WWE, so that spot was open. So that's what originally sort of got me out of, being in the UK. And so like I said, I spent a few days, a week or two in Florida. And then Sam, we drove up for the pop-up show, the NWA Tried and True pop-up show. And so she was there, and that was the first time that we met. And then we just never left each other's sight.
Nice. Yeah, that's a great story, right? Damn. Look at that.
Yeah,
Love it
no,
first
it's
sight.
great. Kaylee, she's she's the best thing that's ever happened to me. Not to sound all soppy and whatnot, but I'm nearly 2 years sober now, and she's helped massively in me dealing with my addictions and everything else. And I'm about to turn 35, August the 6th, and it was time to grow up. It was time to mature. It was, so we kind of met at this perfect time where she'd just moved from Durham to Nashville, sort of to be close to the NWA. We pretty much kind of moved to Tennessee at the same time. I was kind of figuring out, life again, figuring out where I fit. And so, we just hit it off, right away. And me now being in the position where I am, which is I run a household, I have a dog, I have a real life job. I quit alcohol. Like I had to grow up and sort of just go, what, I'm tired of being this idiot. And so it kind of worked out magically with her coming into my life, and me going, okay, I need to grow up and figure out life. So it's worked out fantastic. And then again, we get to work together. We've done tours of Mexico together and a bunch of other stuff. So it's great. You get to work and be with your partner. And some people would hate that, but we don't. We're pretty much attached at the hip, to be honest. And we're both okay with that. So, and I never used to be okay with that kind of stuff. So I'm really happy that I love all the time that we get to spend together.
Yeah, it's so interesting. It's like the business is so much different now, where couples a lot of the time are like together in the business. She's wrestling, you're wrestling. You would think some people wouldn't like that. Like me and my wife probably like, nah, you do your thing, I'll do my, probably want to separate. But that's great that you guys love it. You guys get along, same interests.
Yeah, I think that definitely helps. Me being the person I am now really helps too. I mean,
Right.
10 years ago, I would have hated this and I would have rebelled against it. But I mean, wrestling's kind of one of those weird things too, where you're around especially say WWE or some place like that, where you're on the road all week, every week. You end up bonding with these people because these people become your family. So there's a lot of that too. And you're right. I guess back in the day, it was frowned upon. Whereas nowadays, it's not. And that's just kind of like how it is in the world in general. Like a lot of things that were frowned upon before, or things that, would have been risque or and now becoming more acceptable and more mainstream. So that's just another example of things that might have got you heat back in the day, or could have been detrimental to your career. Whereas now, it's just normal, and people expect that to take place. You don't have to hide it anymore.
Yeah, and hey, like you're a pretty big name in the NWA. She's the NWA Women's Champion. So, I mean, obviously, where the NWA goes, you guys are going to have a lot of responsibility with pushing it. Is that pressure on you guys? Like, not even as a couple, just as wrestlers, and being so close. Like, hey, we got to really make sure that this thing lands. And there's a lot of pressure on your shoulders with the NWA.
I need that pressure. I want that pressure. In my past sort of 10 years, I've been given the ball and I've thrown it away. I've been given the ball, I've thrown it away. I had a good push in WWE and I was a drunk and I messed that up. I've had to get the NXT Tag Team Champions and championships, messed that up. We're supposed to go up apparently after the Shield to, the main roster, messed that up. Then I go to Impact, and then I'm pushed and I'm used well, but I don't care, and I'm a drunk and I'm an idiot, and I throw that away. I get sent to for a 2-week tour of Noah, and Japan should have been a place where I'd have thrived, and I think that I've done really well and I'd have really fit in. And I get drunk and I mess that up, and I get kicked off the tour. And it's just one thing after the other, arrests and this and that. Like, I've always been put in positions to succeed, but I just didn't care, or I was self-sabotaging. And like I said, now sober, turning 35, I wish I'd had the same mindset and mentality that I do now 10 years ago, because my life would have been, obviously there's lots of things that I'd still want, like Kaylee and whatnot. But what I'm saying is my life would have been different had I have, had a grown up, sensible brain in my head, which I didn't. So when it comes to this time at turning 35, I want the responsibility. I want the ball. I want to run with the ball. Whereas before, like I said, I kick the ball away. I don't want it. I don't care. Whereas now I do, and I do care. It's just a shame that it took 10 years to get to this point. But yeah, I mean, I want that pressure, and I want to be given the ball, because this time I want to run with it. So yeah, of course, there's always pressure. But wrestling's one of these things where there's pressure no matter what. You know what I mean? There's never a point where wrestling's a weird thing where it's not like you get like a little bit, you can have like this little good run and then just sit back and chill on it. Like, you're judged every time you wrestle. You know what I mean? Like, you start from scratch every time the mic's been put in front of your face, or every time you lace your boots and step in the ring. You got to prove yourself again. And there's always a new audience, or people forget. So, you got to be very lucky to ride on, something that you did a long time ago. And for me, it's all about proving people wrong now and proving people different. And so, yeah, I thrive on that. And, you only figure out who you are when you're put in these sorts of positions. And I know that Kaylee kind of feels the same, like, it's go time, and that's what we want, and that's what we expect.
They always say, what's that line? You're judged only by or you're only as good as your last match. I think that's the quote that they always use. Like, even if it's a legend, hey, he's only as good as his last match. Yeah, true. It's always like new pressure every time.
Totally new pressure. I mean, you said legend there. I think the legends can kind of get away with it a little bit. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, a little bit, sure.
They still obviously feel the pressure, and like you said, people. You're totally right. You're always judged on your last performance. So,
with you, and you mentioned NXT, and obviously getting kicked out. When you initially got to NXT, I guess really FCW first, right? You were in FCW first, then they transferred over and became NXT. Were you there in the beginning of FCW? I believe, yes, right?
Yeah.
How'd you get like recruited in there? Like, who scouts you? Is that like a Johnny Ace thing? He scouts you and brings you in?
Johnny Ace was the guy that hired me originally. Yeah. To back up a lot, but I'll try not to go on too much here. Like, sure. I started wrestling when I was 16. That's, like I said, 35 now, so it's pretty much half my life. I started wrestling when I was 16, and I started trying out for WWE from 2005 for 4 or 5 years before I finally got hired.
Oh, wow.
But I started wrestling at 16, but I was untrained. I started reffing first, and then I started wrestling. I was untrained. I was just kind of I was allowed to go do whatever. It was a really small promotion. Not a lot of people watched it. If you watch any of those tapes now, or I watch any of those tapes now, I'd be mortified. I was the biggest Jeff Hardy fan, so I was out there doing swantons, and I was doing all this stuff that nowadays, I'm not really into, which is diving over the ropes and all that kind of stuff. So, I used to like that kind of stuff. I just think I've got older and my body's beating up, and I just go, no, I don't want to do that. But, and plus I'm getting old, so I can't. But,
right.
I started wrestling, like I said, when I was 16. And then when I was 18, I moved to Harrogate, which is next door to Leeds. And somehow, I mean, the internet wasn't how it was back then. But I stumbled across a school run by Jeff Kay and Drew McDonald, who are two World of Sport veterans and legends sort of from the wrestling scene, years back with Giant Haystacks and people like that. And so somehow, I mean, it was a real crappy gym in Pudsey. Basically, I learned how to wrestle on thin mats on a concrete floor. So you learn fast how to fall, and you know what I mean? Like I learned the craft like kind of the old school way on mats, and then got booked on shows and kind of figured it out from there. But somehow Jeff Kay, the old man that trained us, he was best friend or really close friends with Fit Finlay. So I found this gym in the middle of some crappy area in Leeds. The guy that ran the school, and there's only a few of us because no one knew it existed. He just kind of did it to get out of the house and sort of pass on a bit of his knowledge. I found this place that had an affiliation with WWE. Like I couldn't have got any more sort of lucky. And so I started trying out. I might have been 18 or 19 or whatever from, at that point in 2005. I started trying out from 2005, to 2009, and then finally got hired at the end of 2009. And it was 3 or 4 years of being told either nothing or thinking that I wasn't good enough or I was never going to make it. I even quit wrestling for a while because I thought I'm just never gonna get hired, And then one of the times too, like Drew, Sheamus, Wade, all those guys, I forget the other guy's name. They were all hired except for me, and I'm going, well, you obviously don't want me. I'm obviously crap. I shouldn't be here. So that's when I gave up. But again, I got the bug again. I thought, no, I can't give up. I've got to keep trying. So 2009 is the day that I got hired, and I nearly didn't get hired again. It was a day, they liked me or whatever, but you never really hear anything. And so I'm sat at the table, and I've heard that 2 of my other friends have got hired, Rampage Brown and Martin Stone. They were thinking about putting them as a tag team and maybe bring them straight up to the road. And so I'm sat there in catering, and I'm upset, and I'm gutted, and I'm not being hired. And I'm talking to Drew because Drew, my other trainer, he was kind of like the talent scout. Drew McDonald, he was kind of the talent scout for all the UK guys. So he would bring all the UK guys in to get a look at. And so I'm sat there at the table with him, and I'm just gutted, and he's just like, "Hey, you want to go speak to Ace?" So I was like, "Yep." But I was terrified because every time I spoke to him, like he'd be like, "Hey, kid, what have you done?" And I hadn't wrestled anywhere, I hadn't gone anywhere. Yeah, I'd wrestled around the UK, but I still, I was timid and I was scared. He's this giant man with this booming voice, so I was like, And so he'd just be like, well, just go stand over there. You know what I mean? Like I didn't give him any information. I was just shit in my pants. And so we go and we knock on his door, and he comes out and he's like, I can't remember the conversation, but he ended up saying like, "Can you pass a drug test?" And I kind of was like, yeah, hoping that he wasn't going to drug test me right there and then. And he said, "Okay, we're going to send you a drug test in the post. If you pass it, you come into Florida. If you fail it, we'll never deal with you again." So I was kind of like, oh, shit. And so luckily it was months and months before the drug test showed up, peed clean. And then, they brought me over there. So, but it was 5 years of being told nothing or just figuring out I was never going to sort of make it. And then luckily I knocked on his door, and that conversation is the conversation that got me there. But it was Arn Anderson too. Arn had taken sort of a shine to me and Martin Stone. And the second to last tryout, he's like, "I like you guys come back." So we thought, okay, like maybe we'll get hired. And then, like I said, we get there. I nearly don't get hired. Martin gets hired. And luckily I had that conversation with Johnny, and Johnny was the one that sort of, took a gamble on me and got me hired.
Man, the craziness of like getting in, right? I mean, it's like you see
totally.
your friends getting in, then you getting it's crazy.
Totally. And then, wrestling has changed so much now, like on the independent scene in the UK, there was a big boom, and there's loads of places where you could work and wrestle and get your name out there. Twitter and things like that wasn't around when I was starting. The internet wasn't very good. And getting hired by WWE was super hard. I mean, the odds of getting hired back then when I was trying to get hired were so minimal. I mean, they've got a quota of Brits that they need, so so it was super hard. Whereas now, I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying time to change. Like it's very easy to get in front of them. It's very easy to sort of join the club. Where it was like as hard as me becoming an astronaut and going to the moon in my mind, getting to that place. So I am proud that I did, especially back then when it was near enough impossible.
And you head to FCW, and they give you the name, I guess, Kenneth Cameron. Where the hell does that come from?
So they don't, like, I always thought that when you got to developmental, they went, oh, you look like a plumber, we're going to give you a plumber gimmick, or you look like a fireman, you're a fireman Sam or whatever. But that's not the case. You got to figure it out yourself. It's kind of sink or swim there, to be honest. And I was just a blind babyface. I didn't know who I was. On the UK scene, I pretended to be the American. I'd come out with the American flag, and all the Brits, all the kids would boo me, like, you know what I mean. I was just the pretend American, the pretend bad guy. But or I'd be a bland sort of arm dragging babyface. So when I got there, they give you a sheet. They go, come up with 10 names or whatever. And at the time, the British Prime Minister was David Cameron, and I'm just thinking of British things. And then my first ex-wife's grandfather was called Kenneth, so I just kind of put the two together. Kenneth Cameron. I didn't realize Kenneth Cameron was going to turn into a vampire, but there you go. So. Yeah, they you just give them a bunch of names, and they just go, okay, this is what you are, and that was the one that they chose. I can't remember. I wish I could remember the other names that I put down, but I can't.
So funny, like some of the names that like they come up with, like you think it's a name generator, but like with you actually picking some of the names, but like Baron Corbin, Dolph Ziggler, it's crazy.
Everyone picks the name, and they have a sheet of 10. But obviously, the office picks what they're going to call you. But you still have to come up with the name. So everyone that you see, they've all come up with their own name. They just chosen from a list, the office.
So it's just like kind of like random of what they would like against, preferably what you would want.
Yeah, although you want to make sure that every name you put in on there you like.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But whatever they like the most is going to trump whatever you like the most.
Right. So, but I mean, essentially, you've picked it, but they pick what it is.
Right. When you kind of are moving along, when does the Ascension form? Is that FCW first, and then when you go to NXT, they form? Because you're the original Ascension, you and Connor, right?
Yes. So I was kind of floating around, not knowing what I was doing, and it's really weird actually, because me and Connor, the day that. So before you get hired, you've got to pass a medical. So they flew me, Martin, Stone, Rampage Brown. They flew all three of us to Pittsburgh. So that was the first time I came to America. And they take you to their doctors and whatnot, and they put you through all these tests and figure out if you're acceptable, be a drug test, and making sure they're not going to hire you, and then you're going to break the next day. So we all flew there, and Ryan had just got rehired too, because he used to be in OVW back in the day, right? And he quit, and then he got the bug again, and they hired him again. And so me, Rampage, and Martin are sat there and waiting for Ryan, because he's the only one that can drive. We're 23, 24, and we live in the UK. In the UK, you really don't need to drive, so we didn't have driver's licenses. So luckily, Ryan was also getting his medical that day too. And I remember we sat there in the airport, and then this giant man comes down the elevator, and I go, "Oh God! Like this is what they all like. We're three tiny Brits. Like this guy's monster.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like, and it's probably still like that there now. Like, these are big dudes. Like, and you know, we might be the bigger guys on the independent UK scene, but we're coming to America and everyone's ginormous. So we're just kind of like, oh boy. So me and Ryan ended up, like you said, we'd never met before. We ended up rooming that night, which is kind of funny. We roomed that night, and you know, we kind of hit it off. And he goes to NXT and starts doing, you know, the comedy kind of show that they had there, doing the rat character and all this sorts of stuff. I went to developmental. I was kind of figuring out who I am, where I fit. Me and Rampage were kind of tagging a little bit, trying to do a hooligans gimmick that he was going to do with Martin, because Martin ended up getting injured or blowing out his knee, so they put him on the back burner, and they didn't bring him in the end. And it was supposed to be their gimmick, but I didn't know who I was, so I kind of went, oh, I'll just do the football hooligan gimmick, even though I didn't like football hooligan. I've got long hair, and so we just figured it out. We just didn't really know what we were doing. You look at Rampage now, he works for for NXT UK, and the boy's killing it now. He's the best talent to come out of the UK for sure. He is a beast. He's a monster. He looks like a man. He wrestles like a man. Like Rampage, besides being a close friend of mine, he's just hella talented. And I'm so happy that he's getting the opportunity now to showcase what he can do. So anyway, we would tag a bit and kind of figure out what we were doing. But we were there to be jobbers for the longest time, because again, no matter what stage you are, you've got to go there. You got to pay your dues. So he was getting squashed by Bray Wyatt. I was getting squashed by Tyrus. Like, it was just part of the job, you know. And so somehow we were just a sort of a bunch of toys that didn't know who we were, what we were doing. So somehow, and I can't remember how it even became a thing, but Ricardo sort of pulled us all together and went, hey, I've got this kind of ascension idea. So me, Raquel, Tito, Ryan, and Rodriguez, we all did this promo. I can't remember what happened or what we were doing. Apparently, Ryan, I think, said that we were in each corners of the ring, and they shot the promo in, and it shot the camera shot on top of the ring, and we were in there, and we all took a turn saying something. And Dusty sort of, instantly Dusty Rhodes' mind's going. He's kind of figuring it out, and then he ends up getting rid of Ricardo, because Ricardo was already with Alberto anyway. So Dusty's like, I don't really see him. He's already got his thing going on. Let's put you lot together. And so I think one day we showed up and we all wore like black, smart, clothes, like shirt, slacks, all that. And so Dusty then was like, I see something. I see sort of vampires. And I guess it was around the time of Twilight, True Blood, maybe. I don't know. I didn't watch any of that stuff. And he was just like, I see something in you. So it kind of spawned organically from that. And we just took the ball with it and ran with it. And I was always really grateful for Dusty, because he saw something in me and he took time out to help me. And, he's one of the main dudes there. You want him to be on your side. And so, I was very grateful that he saw something in me and then let this sort of beast run. So, we had a good run, the four of us. And then Raquel kind of went her own separate way. Tito was called up to the road to tag with Primo. So it just became me and Ryan. Because back then in developmental, it's not like now where everyone knows who's in developmental. We were an island to ourselves. No one knew who we were, what we were doing. There was days that, like, say, Undertaker, Michael Hayes, a few of the SmackDown writers, Triple H, whoever, would come down to the Tampa warehouse, and they would basically go, you get in the ring, show us something. Or we'd have a bit of time to put a match together in the back. We'd put our gear on, and we'd come out to music, and we'd so they all got to see. I think I wrestled Brad Maddox, maybe, or I wrestled Xavier Woods, I can't remember. And we'd do these sort of tryouts in front of, Undertaker and Triple H and some of the writers to see if they wanted to bring anyone up. But other than that, they had no clue who was down there. Vince, obviously, I don't know if he still does now, but zero clue. We were literally just on an island all to ourselves. No one knew, no one cared we were down there. So when they pulled Tito up, it makes complete sense, because they have no clue what we're doing down there. Zero. I'm sure that, every Wednesday when we film promo class, it would get sent to Stanford and no one would watch it, I'm sure. So they had no clue what was going on. And Dusty even helped us put together a package. Like, we got pictures taken and we got a DVD, and we got Bill to go up there and sort of pass it around, you know, on a Raw day or whatever the case may be, to go, hey, we've got these guys down here, take a look at this. Because it was like, even though we work for the company, we've still got to try and get our stuff in front of the people. I mean, it just was mad. And so, so like I said, Tito was gone, Raquel's gone, Rodriguez is gone. It just becomes me and Ryan. And Bill Motwood, he wasn't running it at the time, but he'd come down a lot. He already had a past relationship with Ryan from OVW or Deep South, wherever it was. And so me, Bill, you know, we hit it off, and he really helped sort of hone me in and get me aggressive and get my wind up. And he wanted us sort of like just rabid animals. So every time he'd come down, we'd spend extra time with Bill going through stuff and figuring it out. And then Ryan eventually got injured. So I had a little mini run by myself where I was, you know, consecutively squashing people and beating people up, and got my first little push, even though it was only an FCW. And then when Ryan came back, it was around the same time that they'd, you know, gotten away from the old idea of NXT, which was kind of that, you know, sort of show where they throw you out to the wolves and say, do a promo on flowers or have you carry kegs or whatever. Like, luckily that had ended, and then they were moving into Full Sail, and then there was like they did like a, what's the word, a pilot show. I think I wrestled Tyler Breeze, and they, you know, they filmed it, they figured out what they were going to do. I think Ryan was maybe still injured at this point, and then when it finally, okay, we're actually going to do this as a legitimate third show or third brand, whatever, Ryan was back by that point. So then we, you know, and Dusty was there helping us, and so, you know, we were given sort of, you know, light gimmicks in our hands. We got contact lenses. We spent all this money on our gear and everything. And it was a real cool sort of special thing. At the time, I just didn't appreciate any of it. You know, I don't know. I just sort of hated it all, you know, kick myself now looking back. But, you know, that's kind of, you know, how that started. And, you know, me and Ryan, we're doing excellent. And then we went out one night. Ryan was even with me. I got into some trouble. I got in, you know, an altercation with the police officer, and that was that. You know, I didn't think I was going to get fired. I mean, I guess that's how delusional I was at the time. I thought, oh, I'll be okay, even though I'd previously got a DUI, like probably within a few weeks of me arriving in Tampa, getting off the plane. I already get a DUI. So they were kind of like, oh, we think you've got a problem. You know, go figure it out. And unfortunately, I just never did.
Crazy, like the way it ends, like you said, maybe NXT tag titles, maybe something with the Ascension, maybe something big, and you know, you screwed it up yourself basically.
Oh, 100%. You know, I heard that, you know, we're supposed to get the tag belts, and then they put on Joel Redmond, who's another pal of mine, and Pac Ben. They got the belts instead. Obviously happy for them and stuff, but I was gone. And then I heard that we were supposed to go up after the Shield, bodge that up, and that's history now, you know. So I mean, I needed all that time in developmental to sort of set me up for going to Impact and, you know, figuring out who I was and knowing where cameras were and figuring out promos. Because in the UK, at least back then, there was nothing televised. There was no shows on the internet. There was no need to ever talk or ever figure out where a camera was, because we were just doing it in front of a live crowd all the time. So I needed that. I really needed that time. I just wish that, you know, obviously I wish I'd have been compass mentis in the head and knew that I was in a great position and knew that I was liked, and not been a drunk idiot. And you know, sort of, I kind of downward spiraled from that point. I think even worse. But I do look back and I do regret it. I mean, I was watching Money in the Bank a couple of days ago, and after a while I just had to kind of walk away from it, because you know, there's a lot of guys that I started there with, you know, and I just think, man, like, you know, maybe I'd have got fired down, you know, a year or two later. I don't know, because you know the nature of the beast. Like, no one's safe. But I do kick myself, you know. So sometimes I just have to turn it off, because I'll get, you know, I'll just get depressed over it.
Yep. Hey, you never know. Look at McIntyre. They released him. You know, nobody knew why, and then all of a sudden, now he's back. And you know what I mean. You never know what's going to happen with WWE. They released
You never
Strowman
know.
out of nowhere. Yeah.
You never know with it. But Drew's also corporate. Meaning Drew's never, you know, he's never got into any trouble. He's never been a liability. I unfortunately have been, and it's very hard to, once you're tarred with that brush, that's pretty much it. And I'm tarred with that brush. So, and Drew, like I said, and he busted his ass to get back there. Now, he obviously got a little bit complacent, and over the years of being there, once he got fired, he hit the independent scene like no other. He helped raise ICW, a promotion in Scotland and the UK. Like, he was everywhere. I mean, he was kicking ass. He worked so hard, and I was around a lot of that from him being in Impact and me living with him for a while, and things like that. Like, I just saw his work ethic and how hard he works. And you can't take that away from him. Like, he busted his ass to get there. And then once he's there, he's constantly busting his ass. Like, he's a super hard worker, looks fantastic, talks great. He's a guy that I love wrestling myself. Besides the fact he's a friend, and it's always more fun wrestling your friends, he's also a guy that when you wrestle, you have to shoot fight him. Because if you don't fight Drew, he'll beat the shit out of you. he'll eat you up. So I always like that, because that helps me get amped up. Like, I've got to shoot fight this big dude. Otherwise, I'm going to get nothing. And so I always love wrestling him and being around him. And yeah, like you said, he deserves that, and he's worked his ass off for it. His situation is a bit different from me. Like, they know that they can trust him.
Absolutely. Now, as we hit the wind down, we head towards the finish. What's next for you? What's next for Thom Latimer? I know NWA came up, but what's on the docket?
For me right now, September, I'll be 2 years sober. So again, it's continuing on this path that I'm on of being a responsible adult, treating people fair, treating people nice, and working on my mind and my body. Right now, I feel like it's go time. I want to be the best me I can be in and out of the ring. Whatever opportunities I'm handed, I'm gonna hit him 110%. There's nothing that's getting in my way of being a good person and a great wrestler. All the things that I thrived on before, the partying lifestyle, the cheating, the not caring, that's all gone away now. It's shit, I'll get off the pot. And that's the position that I'm in. That's the position that I want to be in. And so with me, it's helping grow the NWA. It's seeing that grow and expand, and me grow and expand with it. And wherever I'm going, whether I ride out the rest of my career in the NWA, regardless, whatever it is, I'm going to give it 110%. I wish I had this mindset 10 years ago. It's taken me 10 years to have this brain inside my head now that it works. But I mean, I'm excited, and I'm happy that Billy has taken the, he's given me an opportunity, and he's given me another chance. I get a chance to sort of redeem myself, and a chance to sort of at least put a good spin on the winding down of my career. So, like I said, whatever situation I'm put in, I'm gonna give it 110% and not hold anything back. So the future for me, I think, is very bright. And let's just say I never make it to what I want to do in wrestling. At least, I've figured out my brain, and I'm also a lot healthier, and a lot healthier in my relationship and everything else. So, like I said, I just want to give it, just be the person that I should have been at 35. Well, be the person that I should have been at 25. The person I should have been back then is the person that I am now. And regardless, like I said, I'm just going to not hold anything back. So I'm excited. I'm especially excited to see where it goes with the NWA. Very happy to be a part of that. And so, I just take it day by day and see what happens.
Awesome to see you're on the right path. And of course, NWA 73rd anniversary, the end of August in St. Louis, and then Empower as well, and then even more Power TV taping. So you got a lot coming up for the NWA in St. Louis and beyond.
Yeah, we're super pumped. Me and Kaylee, we actually are supposed to go back to the UK the 11th of August, and this is the second time now that the flight has been cancelled, and it's a no-go going there. And even if we did go, it's for 2 weeks, and you got to spend 10 days quarantining. And from what I hear, it's run like a police state. And so even if we did go and we had to quarantine, we'd get 4 days to see my family, and that's just not enough time. So we're pretty heartbroken about the fact that It's another year that I can't see my family. And that really sucks. Like my parents and my uncle and my brother, they're all getting older. I mean, just like me, I'm getting old. They're getting older. And it really worries me. I'm like, damn, I need to get back home and see my family. So we're really kind of heartbroken that we won't be getting back to the UK this August. But instead we thought, you know what, we'll just have a cheap all-inclusive in Mexico. So we go to Florida at the beginning of the month, spend a couple of weeks seeing some friends and whatnot, and seeing Sam Dexter in St. Augustine, which we're pumped about. Go on some ghost tours, and then we're going to go to Mexico for a week. And when we get back, we go straight to TV. So we got an exciting month, and it's my boss at my real job's not very happy because obviously I've taken the whole month off. So she's you know what I mean? She's I just mow the grass now, you know, to stay in the good graces. But yeah, you know, so we're just excited. It's going to be a good month. And then, you know, we're gearing up and we're ready. We're dieting and we're doing all the things that we need to do to look and be functioning and be the best we can be come St. Louis. So yeah, we're good and we're excited about it.
Awesome. You're keeping busy in and out of the wrestling business, which is very cool. Keeping very busy.
3 a.m. suck, but you got to do it at some point.
Yes, true. Now, as far as you and plugs and social media, where can everybody follow you?
I think my Instagram is Thomas_Latimer_, and Twitter I think is the same at Thomas_Latimer_. Obviously, catch NWA Power and all the pay-per-views on Fight. It's a bargain. I understand that, you know, it's a bit of a sore subject because it was free. But at the end of the day, you know, people have got to be paid. You know, I think it's cheap enough and it's well worth it. I think if you're a diehard wrestling fan, the $5.99 or whatever the price is, you know, I don't think it's that much out of your pocket. And there's a bunch of other content on there too. So obviously check out NWA Power on Fight TV. And I think that's about it.
Good stuff, Tom. Awesome to talk to you. Appreciate all the time. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, John. I appreciate you, bro.